Hello and welcome to the New Indian Express Online. I'm Bansi Kalappa, and with me is Mr. Ratan Mani Lal, who's formerly resident editor with two national dailies. Mr. Mani Lal, first of all, UP victory is a stunning victory for the Bharatiya Janata Party. Looking at the party's vote share and, looking at the Congress vote share has come down from about 6 to about 2+%. How do you really look at that?
See, first of all, I really acknowledge this, that the results in Uttar Pradesh have been quite astounding, because it is for the first time that a ruling party has been repeated in an election in the last 35 years or so. The reduction of vote share of the Congress as well as the BSP has been tremendous, and both parties have reduced their vote share. I mean, the vote share of both the parties has been reduced to about 2% or less, indicating that very few people actually went out and voted for them. This indicates the level of commitment in the people who were committed to vote either for the BJP or for the SP. This is also supported by the fact that the turnout in most of the rounds of polling was quite low. It was not very high, but it never went above 60 or 62%. And the minimum was about 53% in round 4, I believe. So in some manner, I can say that people had made up their minds to vote for either the SP or the BJP, and therefore there were very few people who wanted to go out and vote for the BSP and Congress, and therefore the low vote share. This is also an indication of the fact that people generally did not reckon that either the BSP or the Congress were really, into the fray. So this again stems from the fact that the campaign of both the parties was, not as aggressive or as hectic or as all-encompassing as the campaign should be in a huge state like Uttar Pradesh. So that is how it turned out.
Correct. Also, if you look at overall Uttar Pradesh, the win has been resounding. But if you look at the region-wise, kind of a trend, during elections, can you make a comment on that region-wise?
Yes,
you look at it.
Definitely. In the western region of Uttar Pradesh, bordering Delhi NCR on the west, there were two rounds of polling, round 1 and round 2. In both the rounds, the Samajwadi Party alliance with the Rashtriya Lok Dal was a formidable competition for the BJP. And in both the rounds, there were about 10 districts in each. So I believe about 20 districts or 21 districts were covered in the first two rounds. And there the SP-RLD combination did quite well. In fact, in the second round, the districts of Moradabad, Rampur and Sambhal in the second round, in all these three districts, the BJP did not win even a single seat. So in the West, I can say that the BJP did not do very well in areas that were dominated by the minority community, and where the SP-RLD combination was far stronger than the BJP challenge that was offered to them. And similarly, in the East, areas bordering Bihar, for example, in the 6th and 7th round, especially the last round, in the districts of Azamgarh and Ghazipur, which are very close to the Bihar border, in both these two districts, the BJP did not win even a single seat. So I think in areas where, in the East and in the West, where the minority community has a formidable presence, the BJP did not do well at all. Whereas in places like Agra, Varanasi, Gorakhpur, and a few other districts, the BJP won all seats in these districts. So I'll say that rather than being a region-wise differentiation in results, it's more related to demography. The Muslim community had literally, it had been very open about it that they wanted to vote for the Samajwadi Party and Akhilesh Yadav, and they did it. And they did it in the western districts as well as in a few eastern districts. That's how it was.
Okay, largely, if you look at the narrative of the ruling party, CM Yogi's narrative was law and order and development. So what really went in his favor when you look at the awesome response that the party has received in the polls?
I'll narrow it down to about 3 points. Number one was the fact that people of Uttar Pradesh still remember the tenure of the BSP from 2007 to 2012 and the tenure of the Samajwadi Party led by Akhilesh Yadav from 2012 to 2017. And it was for the first time in this election that a government headed by the BJP, by a BJP chief minister, could be compared with the tenure of the Samajwadi Party and the BSP in the past. What used to happen before this election was that people used to, vote the Samajwadi Party into power, and in the next election, kick them out and get BSP. And in the next election, kick the BSP out and get the SP. So it was a toss between the two. For the first time, the BJP also came into the picture in a big way, buoyed by Narendra Modi's popularity and his massive presence all over the place, including Varanasi and Gorakhpur. So I think the comparison of the tenures of Mayawati and Akhilesh with the tenure of Yogi was something which was quite prevalent, and it was quite visible also. People used to say that we remember what Akhilesh Yadav did, we remember what Mayawati did, and we know what Yogi is doing. So the comparison with faces rather than parties, I think this played a major role. The second factor is the creation of a huge vote bank of the beneficiaries of government schemes, both central and state. A lot of money was paid as the Kisan Samman Nidhi to farmers, to senior citizens as old age pension, to women who were widowed or destitutes, for girls to get married in a mass marriage ceremony, to parents of children for buying them uniforms and socks and school bags. And all this money was paid into the beneficiaries' bank accounts through the DBT system. So there was no intermediary, there was no middleman, and all this money came into their bank accounts. And lastly, the free ration being given out by the government since the advent of the COVID times, in March 2020, is continuing till date. It is said to be, it will continue till 15th March actually. In I think 2021 or so, the central government scheme was continuing, and the state government also announced a similar package of free food grain supply to this section of society, which was a ration card holder, especially the BPL category. As a result, people belonging to this category are getting a double dose of free rations, including wheat, rice, sugar, edible oil, salt, and I think a few other things. So I think there is the number of such beneficiaries is over 15 crore people in UP. So getting free houses, getting free scholarships, getting free money, getting free rations, this has created a huge dependable vote bank, which I think went to the BJP's favor. And the third reason is a very strong perception that the law and order situation in Uttar Pradesh has been actually very tight control, with the dismantling of the empire of big criminals and big organized crime gangs in Eastern UP, Central UP, and Western UP also. Actually, this dismantling had a very visible effect in some districts of Western UP, especially like Moradabad, Kairana, if you remember, and places like Azamgarh, Ghazipur, Mau, and Allahabad, Prayagraj, that is, even Lucknow. The organized gangs were demolished, their properties were seized and destroyed. So all this, sent a message that the Yogi administration was very tough on criminals and crime control. So I think these three factors played a major role, especially when compared to the image created for the Akhilesh Yadav government as being too lenient towards criminals and indulging in appeasement, of criminals on the basis of their caste and community. So all these things did play a role when seen in combination.
Also, another important thing is Congress played Priyanka Gandhi in the UP elections. So now, if we look at Priyanka Gandhi Vadra's role and Congress vote share dropping from 6 to just 2+%, does it in any way discount her leadership skills, or how do you look at her role in this entire election?
See, there is no doubt that the Congress campaign led by Priyanka was very visible. It attracted a lot of people, especially her public rallies, even the two virtual rallies that she addressed, and the road shows she conducted in about two dozen districts in UP. And her appeal among women and young people was immense. A lot of women and young people, especially students and young people looking for jobs, they all flocked to her rallies. And her manner of talking to them, it was quite soft and quite sensible when compared to the harsh and shrill campaign conducted by the SP and the BJP in their respective areas. So all said and done, the Congress campaign was remarkable for its for its direction, for its approach, and for the leadership provided by Priyanka. But again, Priyanka was alone, in doing all this. There was no one. If she is in Kanpur, then she is in Kanpur. Nothing is happening about the Congress in rest of the state. If she is in Lucknow, she is in Lucknow. Nothing is happening elsewhere, and so on. So she managed to, sent only a spark in the campaign by her presence, and that's it. The spark died down as soon as she went to another district. She was in Lucknow for a day. She was in Kanpur for half a day. She was in Gorakhpur for half a day. She was in Varanasi for half a day. She was in Jhansi for half a day. So, a campaign has to be sustained and supported by other leaders also on a continuing basis, which did not happen. So there is no question that Priyanka left a mark. She did impress people with her manner of speaking, with a manner of campaigning, but unfortunately, the party simply doesn't have the organization to back up, her leadership. And I won't say that her leadership is going to be discounted because of the poor show of the Congress, but yes, the Congress will have to take a call whether Priyanka is to be given, full control over the party in UP, because she mentioned something to this effect in Lucknow day before yesterday on Women's Day. She was in Lucknow on 8th of March, that is day before. She addressed a huge Women's Day rally where she said that regardless of the result, she will continue to be in Lucknow. She will keep coming and she will keep raising people's voices and so on. So either this was an indication that the Congress party intends to keep Priyanka posted in Lucknow, or I don't know. If the Congress does that, maybe Priyanka could play a bigger role for 2024. Who knows?
Also, if we look at it, Behenji had a bigger say in the scheme of things in UP. This time she was largely invisible, or shall we say irrelevant.
That is a big surprise because in the first 3 to 4 rounds, Mayawati did not address a single rally. She did not even come out. I think she used to be active on social media and she addressed, I think, 1 or 2 virtual rallies, and that was all. She became active only after the 3rd round, 4th round, maybe after Lucknow. She addressed a rally in Lucknow and then she went eastwards. again, the BSP's campaign was also, affected by the same factors as the Congress. She was alone in her campaigning because all the senior leaders of the BSP had either quit the BSP last year or they quit recently in the recent 2-3 months. Number two, uh, she did not cultivate a second line of leadership after many leaders had left. So as a result, it was either she or no one. The state unit of the BSP also is quite irrelevant, and the only person of substance who campaigned was Satish Chandra Mishra, the general secretary of the party and a member of the Rajya Sabha, if you remember. So the campaign of such a huge party that used to be in power in UP at least 4 times cannot be handled by two persons only, and that too sporadically, like addressing a meeting today, then lying low for 5 days, and then addressing the meeting again, then lying low for 3 days, and so on. So I think the perception among the people that the BSP was playing it as a B team of the BJP was very strong. And that is why even the committed voters of the BSP didn't even come out to vote. I mean, imagine what a fall for BSP, which used to have a complete sway over the vote bank she had created. Actually, it did not exist before BSP came into the picture. And yet, today, most of the Dalit voters have shifted towards the BJP. Most of the OBC voters for the BSP have shifted towards the SP, as was evident with the movement of BSP leaders from BSP to SP before this counting began, before the campaigning began. So I think the BSP is in a huge lot of trouble. It is in a tight spot. And now that Mayawati has announced that her brother and her nephew will be the national level leaders, more as political successors to her in the party. I think it's a tall order for either Mayawati or the two new leaders which she has cultivated to rebuild the BSP's cadre, to make a leadership, a second line of leadership for that matter, and to make the BSP relevant again in the minds of the people who made it this big and this important. Today, they are absolutely directionless, and I don't think they are going to come back to BSP if things continue to drift in this manner.
Okay. One last question before I let you go. Do you think this election is going to have any major bearing on the 24 national elections?
I won't say a major bearing, because you see, the voting pattern for the Lok Sabha election and the assembly election, like in other states, is different in Uttar Pradesh also. In 2014 and 19, the state voted overwhelmingly in the favor of BJP. And out of 80 seats, I think about 72 seats went to the BJP, and the same number went to the BJP in the earlier election also. I think that the importance of the 22 elections vis-a-vis 24 elections will lie more in the role Yogi Adityanath plays in consolidating the BJP's presence across UP. Because, there are areas today which I mentioned about 5 or 6 districts where the BJP has not won a single seat. Now, that means about 7 assembly seats, 7 Lok Sabha seats. So if such a thing continues to damage the BJP in other surrounding districts also in the coming 2 years, then the BJP will have to do a lot of hard work, in reclaiming these seats for the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. It is going to be a big challenge, in fact, I will say, because in effect, the number of seats for the BJP has fallen from the 2017 figure. It used to be 321. and today it is, I think, 272 or 273 or something. So I think it's going to be a big challenge, and I can foresee Prime Minister Modi making more frequent visits to Uttar Pradesh in the coming 2 years, launching more big projects, infrastructure projects and so on, because ultimately it is the goodwill, popularity and the appeal of Modi that things go in BJP's favor. Yogi only, I think he follows whatever agenda Modi sets from the center. So I think this is going to happen in the same manner now also.
Thank you, Mr. Ratan Mani Lal. So there it is. Uttar Pradesh has gone to the polls and the Bharatiya Janata Party has won the polls in a very big way. In fact, they have, this is scripting history, because in so many decades, no party has gone on to win back-to-back victories, and so well they've done it. But will these elections in any way be determining the final results in 2024? These are questions before us. Thank you for watching the New Indian Express online.
Thank you so much. Thank you.